Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lori Clark Show. This episode of my podcast is brought to you with the help of Zoom Us, a video and audio conferencing interface. It's important to know that I'm in no way sponsored by Zoom. I just want to tell you how much I love it. It is very reliable, easy to use, and provides excellent audio and video files that my team and I produce to share the power of story with you. Another non-sponsored, couldn't do without, but just have to tell you how good it is Squarespace. When they say it is the all-in-one platform, it really is true. I go into the back end of my website multiple times a day, adjust things, post podcast, add links, and look at our show's analytics, which all sync across my devices. And when I need an image, Squarespace provides an excellent resource that's powered by Unsplash. Now for my most favorite feature, the Squarespace app. Being a working mom, there never seems to be enough time in my day. So when my daughter's in ballet, I sit in my car and upload, post, and manage everything on my website from the app. It's really cool and seamless. Squarespace is really, really simple and very dedicated to helping me create a brand of excellence. So with that, big shout out to Zoom, Squarespace, and Unsplash. Thank you for helping me tell people's stories. With that said, let's move on to the best part about today, the show. Please allow me to welcome my next guest on The Lori Clark Show. Today we are talking with Dr. Adia Gooden. She is a clinical psychologist. I first noticed her while doing some research, and I came across a TEDx talk that was done in 2018 on unconditional self-worth. I listened to her talk twice because I thought, this is really great stuff. And I went to her website and to her Instagram. You can find her at dradiagooden.com, and her Instagram is Dr. Adia Gooden. And I downloaded her ebook, her free ebook on 4 practices to cultivate unconditional self-worth, to begin your journey of living a bold and beautiful life. She says, you are worthy unconditionally. When you know this for yourself, you will be unstoppable. And of course, that had me at hello. So we found her, we talked to her, and she agreed to walk us through this discovery of unconditional self-worth. Please welcome my next guest, Dr. Adia Gooden.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward to this.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, I really like your work.
Thank you.
I've listened to your TED Talk I listened to it twice for sure. And then had other people listen to it as well. And the conversations that come out of your experience and what the work that you do they're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you for doing what you do, because it seems to me like you're an inspiration to many, many people.
That's my hope. My hope is that people are inspired to have different relationships with themselves. And so it always feels affirming when people say that my talk or whatever I'm putting out helps them to do that.
I have to say, I was looking at your Instagram account, and I saw this picture of you as a little girl, and you had these are they love heart socks on?
Yeah.
And your little toe is like perfect. It was just, and I thought, yes, she talked about being perfect, and there it is in full color.
Oh, Lord.
And it's interesting to me because I have 4 children.
Oh, wow.
And they're 20, just about 22, 21, 18, and 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's another conversation. But we encounter this conversation about worthiness so much. I said to my partner, Dave, how can we say this 30 different ways? Like there are so many levels to the conversation. And I mean, I've read a whole bunch of books. I follow Dr. Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer, and they wrote the book, Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. Really appreciated that. And I had a conversation with a woman on leaning into emotion and the power of emotion. And we were really focusing around young men and women to encourage them about what this looks like. But what you've said, in most of your Instagram posts about anxiety, and in these times, it seems like we are really encountering this new level of what our self-worth is like. And if you don't mind, we have a lot to talk about today. The one place I'd like to start is your experience as a 12-year-old girl. Realizing, okay, you said, like, this wasn't right. Something wasn't right. And I have children who say that to me.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, my heart sort of breaks for my 12-year-old self, right? And, the struggle to fit in that I think so many people go through, whether, they fit in, but they're sort of faking it to fit in, or they don't fit in, or they're bullied, right, on the extreme level. And, I was never bullied or sort of, explicitly cast out, but there was definitely a sense of, I'm just not as accepted and appreciated and embraced as these other kids, right? Nobody has a crush on me. Sometimes I'm not invited to the party. And I went to a very small private school. So there was like 13 people in a class, right? So if you weren't invited, it was very obvious, right? You could easily invite everybody usually. And it just gave me this sense that, okay, I'm just not good enough, or I'm not doing this well enough. And in my 12-year-old brain, it was like, okay, well, we've got to do something to get out of this. And so let's be perfect. Let's try to be perfect in school. Let's try to be the perfect friend. And that only works temporarily, right? That's what I've learned over the course of my life, is that, yes, if you're perfectly giving and selfless, you will have friends, but if you have these one-sided friendships, when it's time for you to ask for something, people may not show up.
Well, and really, can you remember back to defining what perfect was for you?
I think in a lot of ways it was, get good grades. So grades is a little bit tricky for me because I actually thankfully went to an elementary and middle school where I didn't have grades. I had evaluations, which I think was just a godsend for my sort of type A overachiever personality.
Right.
But, I remember being absolutely crushed when I got my test scores back to get into like high school entrance exams, because I didn't feel I did well enough. And I thought I was not going to get into any high schools. So it was doing well academically. And it was also always being there for friends, always giving, and showing up the right way, looking good, having everything together, not being vulnerable. I think that's how perfect manifested. Everything is together. We always have it tight and in order, and we don't need people's help and all of that. I think that's what it looked like for me.
Well, and vulnerability, you said something about vulnerability there. And I think that's one of the major keys. Perfection doesn't leave any room for messiness. If it's perfect, there's no messiness. But I love messiness, because that's really where, in my opinion, from my life experience, the perfection has come through, right? It feels better. But that learning about vulnerability and the power of vulnerability, it's an exposure that at that age, people don't understand what messiness is.
No.
And they're going by, these daily actions like you've talked about. And so then you moved to a whole bunch of different things. You said, and I went and I did the dance and I showed up in all these different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in university, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to Stanford, which was an amazing blessing, opportunity. And, still that wasn't enough, right? So we start to see this pattern of, okay, you're sort of reaching the pinnacle and you still feel unworthy. So this external stuff isn't actually working.
Right.
And so I was doing a whole lot of things at Stanford, right? Again, overextending. And when I look back, I loved my experience, but the thing I would have changed is slow down, take it less seriously, have more fun, play more, relax more, rest more. Yeah. But that drive to feel worthy through external achievements really pushed me, right? And it made it so that I didn't take as much time for fun and relaxation and play as I would have liked to, ideally. And it took me a while. It took me until I was in graduate school and finally went to therapy myself to really start with this vulnerability thing. And even in therapy, it took me a couple of months before I really opened up to my therapist and wasn't just trying to look really competent and like I had it together. So this sort of happened in layers of me sort of needing to move further into vulnerability and let go of this idea that I needed to have it all together.
Can you talk to us about, because I was talking with one of my family members today about our conversation, and I said, and they asked, well, what's the difference of self-worth and self-esteem? Because we often, and now we're using this word self-compassion, and you hear those three terms. I would really like to have more of a clarity about that.
Yep. Yeah. So self-esteem is based on our accomplishments, our abilities, our skills, and what we think we can achieve, right? So our self-esteem goes up and down based on how we're doing in the external world. So you get an A on the test, you're like, yes, high self-esteem, I'm smart. You get an F on the test or in the class, you feel horrible. You feel, I'm not smart, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, right? So self-esteem is very much based on kind of what we do in the world, how we engage in the world, and sort of how we're evaluated by the world and how we measure up compared to other people.
Yeah.
In contrast, I see self-worth and really unconditional self-worth as a deep sense that you deserve love, care, to be alive, to take up space, regardless of what is happening externally, right? So I would, imagine, one of the easiest ways to connect to this is imagining a baby, a newborn baby, right? And the vast majority of people would say that baby is worthy of love and care, worthy of taking up space. It has not accomplished anything, right? Literally nothing.
No, you're right.
But nobody's saying, well, I'll care for you when you get a good grade, or when you show me you
when
can
you start
crawl
wiping
well.
your butt, I'm going to care for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and we all have that baby still within us who needs that same love and care and attention. And then the third thing, self-compassion, which I think is so powerful, is for me, is one of the ways that we get to self-worth, that we get to connect to unconditional self-worth, because we are responding to ourselves with that attention, with that love, with that care. That it's a way of relating to ourselves and creating a positive, affirming, and encouraging relationship with ourselves that reflects the fact that we are worthy unconditionally, even when we're going through a hard time.
Yeah, I've always thought about it, and up until recent have had to use it in my own life, because things happen, And what is interesting to me about this conversation is that we could be talking to a 5-year-old about this. And we could be talking to a 110-year-old about this, because this is you never are quite done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I feel like there's so many things that pull as a parent. If someone criticizes you, well, now you're feeling like, okay, wait a minute, there's a sense of that self-worth there. Yep. But for me, about the self-compassion, during really hard times, that's when self-compassion comes in. Yeah. Because in that hard time, if I don't exercise self-compassion to who I am as a woman, and I feel like it moves me to a place of low self-worth. Yep. The circumstance can just push you into that cycle of negative thinking when you arrive there, right?
Yes. So we can feel that the reason we're experiencing a struggle or a challenge is because there is something wrong with us and we are unworthy. And so we sort of kick ourselves when we're down. I like to, when I talk to clients, we say there's clean pain, which is somebody stepped on your toe. It hurts, right? Or you have a loss in your life. It's disappointing. It's hurtful. Yes. But then we sort of layer on what we call dirty pain, which is, oh my gosh, I'm such a klutz. I shouldn't have walked into that, or I shouldn't have done that, or, oh my gosh, I should have never gotten my hopes up that this relationship would work. Since I got my hopes up, that's why I'm disappointed. And we just start doing that. And so then on top of the regular pain that we're experiencing, which is normal and human, we get layer self-criticism, which just makes it so much worse. And so the self-compassion interrupts that and says, it's okay. This is human. You're okay, right? I love you still, right? And allows us to center ourselves and calm and feel like just because I'm having this hard time does not make me unworthy, does not mean that there's something wrong with me.
And I would further that in taking a little quote from not even a quote, but it was something that you said in your TED Talk. You said, I have a space in this world, even in the midst of these people who are saying things about me, or I'm feeling very exposed right now. I have a place. I belong.
Yes.
How does somebody move from that quick cycle that you speak of to what I just said? Okay, hold on. I have a place.
Yep.
How do we get there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think that self-compassion is a really great tool in those moments, a really great practice. And, that involves mindfulness, which is slowing down enough to really even notice, here's what I'm feeling, here's where I'm at without judgment, right? So the part of the big piece is you're trying to take the judgment out of it. Yep. Just noticing, slowing down enough to see where you're at and be curious about that. Remembering that whatever you're going through is human, right? And I also like to talk about forgiveness, self-forgiveness, because so often we hold these things against ourselves and we say, well, because I messed up 5 years ago, that's why I don't deserve to be here. That's why I don't deserve space. And so the process of saying, I messed up, I experienced pain from that, and I forgive myself. I've learned, I've grown, I'm going to release myself from the burden of that, also helps us to feel like, no, I'm okay. I'm not going to throw myself away for past mistakes.
Yeah. Even if I've caused others a lot of pain, I still can forgive myself, which then opens me to an opportunity of just awakening.
Yep.
I see forgiveness. I've had to forgive a lot in my life. I'm sure, you have too. And it's a really big journey, but forgiveness is for us.
Yes.
Forgiveness is for your own inner peace. And I realized something when I was working through a really hard relationship, and I was asking myself, I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of these cycling thoughts about, well, you are acting this way. And it was just like, it was really overwhelming. And I remember feeling into it. And I said to myself, okay, I can forgive myself and I can accept that my expectation of this person couldn't be any different. They did what they did.
Yep.
It couldn't have gone another way.
Yep.
Because that's the choice that happened there. I forgive myself for believing it could.
Yes.
And then moving on through that. And that's another level of self-compassion.
Yes. Yeah. I think, what you just touched on there is such an important aspect of forgiveness, which is accepting that what happened.
Yes.
So often our lack of forgiveness for ourselves or others is because we want it to be different, right? Yes. We say, well, if I had just done this, or I should have just done this, or if they had just done that, and we hold on and try to rework the past in our minds with the hope that maybe somehow it'll change, but it won't.
Yeah.
And so then we just tether ourselves to it instead of when we forgive, we say, okay, this is what happened. This was the result. And I'm going to release myself from that.
Right. And that tethering happens because perhaps we want another outcome.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be separated relationally. You're not looking for relational separateness. We are built and made for community and connection, and that community and connection brings a sense of belonging to who we are. It's when that belonging gets cut off that we then start to say, oh, well, okay. And maybe you have to cut that off because you have to choose yourself.
Yeah.
But it's still ugly, and it can still push you down into this very interesting cycle of negative thoughts and self-doubt that arise from what seemingly is a position of strength.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's where having really supportive friends or loved ones, when we can't connect to our self-worth or connect to the fact that we're worthy, having people in our lives who can remind us of that, who can show up and say, I see you, I see that you made a mistake, and I'm still here with you, and I'm still here for you, and I still love you, and I still think you're worthy. Because sometimes we really need others to pour that message into us when we're having a hard time accessing it for ourselves.
To remind us who we are.
Exactly.
So what would you say so let's do three things. So as a parent to a child, a parent or a guardian to a teenager, and then to an adult as a friend or a loved one, what would you say to someone who who you are watching and they do not feel like they're belonging here? I mean, that's the core of so many people I've spoken to over the last year. They're just like, I don't know, this aloneness. I used all kinds of things to fill my belonging and my worthiness. And now all of that is reduced. And now I'm left with this return on my investment that's not very much. So what would you say, and how would you help a parent frame it for a child who is trying to connect with their own self-worth?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing would be validating the feelings.
Yeah.
Right. So I think so often we go into, but that's not true. Right. Like, you're not alone, or you're not right. Like, we try to
I'm your mom.
Right. And part of that comes from, I can't tolerate that you're experiencing pain. My deep love and care for you makes me want this to go away and fix it. Or I start to feel guilty as your parent that you're feeling this way, and maybe I did something wrong. And all of that gets sort of muddled up. And so I think the first thing would be, okay, you're feeling lonely. You're wondering if you're worthy. I get it, right? I have felt that way too. And it's human to feel that way.
Very good.
And I know you may not believe me right now, but I love you so deeply. And there is nothing you could do or not do that would take that away, that would make me think differently of you. And so you would, just affirm and sit with the fact that they may not totally take it in. Maybe it's a hug. Maybe it's just being present. You can tell me how you're feeling, right? I'll give you the space to tell me how you're feeling about yourself. And I'll sit with you in that and really try to not invalidate you, but remind you that I love and care for you and that you deserve it.
Wow. And for a teenager who is further down in terms of, cognitively and even just more experience, you would take that, you would say what you just said there, but you would take it a step further, would you not?
Yeah, I would. I think I might use a metaphor, like the metaphor of the baby. Like, would you think that a baby needs to accomplish, or if they, if they poop all over themselves, or if they, fall and they, would you think that makes them unworthy? And why is that different for you? So maybe using sort of a metaphor around, can you think of other people who may not be doing everything right in their lives, or maybe really struggling? Do you still think they're worthy of care? So I worked at a college counseling center for a while. And so I'd ask, okay, what about the homeless person that you see? What about the person who has cancer, right? Are those people outside of the realm of worthiness because they're not achieving in the way our society says you need to achieve right now? So you sort of test the limits, who's inside, who's outside. And if they're inside, if they deserve care, why are you putting yourself outside? So it's a little bit of an intellectual exercise. One thing I'll just note, both for, I think, all levels of children, that, as parents model this, right? And so if you are criticizing and being harsh and, I made a mistake. I can't believe I shouldn't have, right? If you're modeling a sense of criticism and unworthiness when you make mistakes, kids take that in. And so a big way to communicate you're worthy regardless of what happens is if you treat yourself that way, and your kids pick up on that.
Well, and that's a whole other topic. Because generally speaking, parents fulfill a role that is selfless. And there's not a lot of self-compassion. There's not a lot of self-care. I was speaking with my partner yesterday. We were talking about this interview today, and we were just saying, okay, 2021 is this year of really embracing self-care for us. We haven't done that as much. And that doesn't mean necessarily healthy eating. Like, you got your list, right? But I'm talking about like meditation, sitting in that sacred space. And self-care for me and self-compassion is to say, my moment of struggle could be around dinner time. It could be around, all these different places where you're feeling like pulled and you're not feeling connected. And you talked about the word tethering. And I think when we can connect to our body and hear our heart beating and feel the blood moving through our hands, it drops you into a moment of care that moves you to compassion for who you are as a person.
Yeah.
When your kids can see that, like you say, it changes the whole dynamic.
Yep.
But then there's those people who really don't have that mentor. They do not have that. In fact, the reinforcement is you are not. You aren't. I don't even want you here.
Yeah.
So where do we go with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when clients come to me in therapy and they've had that sort of relational trauma, where someone in their life has been harmful, has been abusive, has put them down, it really starts with a process of sort of looking back at what has happened and reframing it, right? So often kids and adults, we internalize, we think if someone is treating me this poorly, it must be my fault. it must be because I'm not worthy of being treated any better. And so the process of reworking that narrative from it was your fault that you were treated that way to the person who was treating you that way had a lot of problems. They probably had their own trauma. They probably had their own issues, and you did not deserve that.
Right.
You did not deserve that. So let's get their narrative, their voice out of your head, because that often gets internalized. And let's rework this idea of what you deserved and what you didn't deserve, and help you, if you can, to forgive that person, to forgive yourself, and to create a new relationship with yourself that's loving and compassionate.
Can we talk about factors that create a sense of this low self-worth?
Yeah. We receive so many messages, right? So, social media.
You can start with media.
Right. And there's these wonderful things about social media, and there are also these really challenging things, right? You're sort of primed to compare yourself, to think, how many likes am I getting? How many likes are they getting? What do they think? Are people liking? Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, he looks like that. I should look like. It sort of just primes this tendency to compare, to critique, to evaluate. So that's one thing. Then there's ads, which are embedded in social media and on TV. All of this is what a beautiful, happy life looks like. This is how you have to be, look, act, dress in order to be happy and to be worthy. Those messages are coming constantly. And then, we just talked about family. Sometimes there can be really discouraging messages from family members. Sometimes it's, you're not good enough. And sometimes it's, oh, well, I'll act like you're good enough when you get a good grade, or when you do this thing, or when you have this type of job, right? And so that message can also come through, that your worth is based on these conditions that you meet. There's certainly gendered conditions. Are you married? For a woman, certainly, are you married? Do you have children biologically, right? Like these sorts of things that we sort of say, okay, well, I'm worthy if I can do this, or I have this. That can be, we're swimming in it. And so it's easy to internalize it without recognizing it.
Wow. See, and I had a thought while you were speaking, and because we've been really, like I said, it's very difficult in my family with my children because they're older. And so we've got, 2 adults, one graduating this year and then one in elementary school. And Dave and I she was in our bed the other morning, and we were drinking coffee, and she said something and she sounded angry, and our daughter's name is Saley, and she doesn't usually sound angry. And Dave responded and said, I'm really glad you were able to say that you were angry. And it just caught me because I had been prepping for what we're going to talk about. And I thought, right, we need to be able to say when someone is angry, we often use it, or they show an emotion. You're always sad. And we use it as this, it pushes them into a low category. Like you're not connected, you're this, you're that. And so then in their mind, they might be thinking, I don't cut it. I can never find joy. And so one opportunity, would you say that sort of a counter thing to do is to begin to really express gratitude for someone speaking about their feeling of rage or anger and saying, that was really brave of you. Like, this is hard in the first place. So thank you for doing that. What do you think?
Yes. I mean, your partner's response to Saley is beautiful, right? As this affirmation of your feelings are welcome here. And we're actually glad that you're expressing them, because so many people come into adulthood thinking my feelings aren't okay, or this category of feeling isn't okay. And it doesn't mean we don't experience that feeling. It just means we suppress it, we stuff it down, we react, and it's not the healthiest. So if we can create cultures in our families and our schools and communities of saying, okay, if you're angry, here's how we express it constructively. And we welcome that because it's a human emotion and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. Instead of people feeling like I'm angry, I'm a bad person, there must be something wrong with me. Again, we're normalizing human emotions. And that does communicate you're worthy even when you're angry.
But in those fundamental years, elementary school, high school, expressing anger, that's not a great idea, right? Like when you're in the game of survivor for your whole life, for your early part of your life, it is very difficult. You want to really hedge your bets. You can be angry with certain people, but not other people. And that moves into that, like what you talked about, that perfectionism and not really being honest about how you feel, or learning to suppress those feelings that later, it's so interesting, because if I could say anything to anybody, it would be, don't push things down, because it comes out, whether you like it or not. Right?
Yes. Eventually it will come out. And that's what I, say to clients all the time is, you don't get rid of emotion. The only way to sort of release emotions is to feel them and release them. But if you press them down, it will come out. And so for some of us, that manifests physically, right? Some of us, it means we sort of boil over at somebody and some small thing. For some people, it means aches and pains and physical manifestations of the stress that you're holding in. But people are often surprised by the fact that when they allow their emotions, they come and go more quickly, and they're not as bad as they think they're going to be. So I often guide people through relaxing into the emotion, allowing it, and then releasing it, not getting caught up in the thoughts, but allowing yourself to feel it. And then it releases, it goes away. It doesn't stay like a dark cloud over you day after day after day, which is what people fear. It actually passes and you can move forward with your life.
Well, you said something in your TED Talk. You said, as soon as I set the bar for my self-worth, it was raised. And that really tags into what you just said, because so often, we're having conversation with ourselves, or someone is saying, okay, I want to teach you how to let go of that. But then once you do, you level up. And there's it's almost like life says, okay, but you've learned that, now you got to level up and grow a little bit more to learn another level of what self-worth and this unconditional self-worth means. Can you explain to me, and I said in my notes, some people, it's a tall order to hear the word unconditional, because it means to me always. So how do you build that baseline that says always, that storm is raging and I stand and I know who I am, even if it's challenged and if I forget for 1 minute or 10 days, but I come back to my center. Maybe it's a year I forgot who I was, but I come back to my center. This is who I am.
Yeah. It's a good question, because it is a big ask. I have a deep belief that everyone is worthy, even people who I don't agree with. I don't like what they do. And I believe that about other people since I was a kid. And it's just, it's taken me time to believe that about myself. And I think my idea and the deep belief comes from, no matter what anyone does, I'm not going to throw them away. I do not believe that anybody deserves to be thrown away. And so for me, that means when I've made a mistake and I'm feeling that flush of shame, right? And usually it means the little one in me, little girl Adia, is like, we can't do, it's freaking out, that I'm saying, it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. I know this doesn't feel good. I know you think you messed up. I know that you're worried people will reject you, but I'm still here and I'm still going to be with you, and I'm not going to run away from you, and I'm not going to throw you away. And that's the practice. It's no matter what, I am going to be here with you and for you. And it doesn't mean oh, Adia, you're just so perfect and you don't have to grow and you don't have to learn. And if you make a mistake, who cares? Because you're perfect, right? That's not what it means. It means a deep, commitment to myself so that I can learn and grow. Because if I'm there for myself, then I can look at, okay, Adia, you seem to be making this mistake a lot. What's going on? I'm not looking at it to say there's something wrong with you and you need to get it together. I'm saying, hey, let's look at this because I think you could do better. And I think it's time to grow out of this pattern that's not serving you or not helping other people. And I'm here by your side to do that. Right. So let's look at it. Let's grow. And I actually think that this is the best foundation for growth and development.
Wow. I have to sit with that for a second because it's so good. That is so rich and full to me. When you began to love yourself unconditionally, was it just a matter of repetition? And when you talk about it's like moving into that place of reminding that little girl or the little boy. But how do you, in the place of that adversity, remind yourself, oh, I got to give myself some compassion here. I belong. So is there any little moment that people can be triggered by that you could help them with that go, hey, here's a really good strategy when it hurt, when it's hurting, when you're upset, when you've lost your temper and you feel like crap about yourself. When people look at you and they're bawling and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I will say that I think there are both ongoing practices that make it easier to return to these practices in a moment. So for me, that's meditation, right? Meditating is grounding so that I don't get so far away, before I come back.
Right.
And I would say in the moment, thinking about either yourself as a little child or if for people who sometimes people just have a really hard time being able to tap into the idea of being kind to themselves when they've made a mistake.
Right.
And so to that, what I say is, I think it's useful to imagine your emotion, the anger, the frustration, the shame, the anxiety as a baby, as a puppy or your favorite animal. And imagine it coming into the room and crying, right? A little puppy, right? What would you do to that for that puppy, right? You wouldn't be like, get out of here. You deserve it. Right? No, you'd say, oh my gosh, come here. And if you can't imagine comforting yourself, imagine comforting this baby, this puppy, not to, fix it, but to just say, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here. I know it hurts. I know this is scary. Oh, I know you feel ashamed, but it's okay. I got you, right? And even that imagining doing it to another being shifts how we feel, right? It calms us down. It calms our nervous system down. It allows us to relax and to breathe. And it, taps in our prefrontal cortex, because part of what happens is when we feel ashamed, we feel at an extreme level like we're going to be annihilated. Like we are going to be left out in the woods by ourselves. We are going to be ejected from the group. And that triggers our survival. Oh my gosh, right? I've just done the unthinkable. I am going to be rejected. How am I going to survive? I'm not okay. And so if we can calm ourselves down, calm our nervous system down, offer ourselves or this, imaginary puppy some comfort, it really soothes ourselves so that we can then think, okay, I just yelled at them. Okay, I need to apologize. And I can go in there and I can apologize, not from a place of, you've got to forgive me because but from a place of, I am so sorry. I let this get the best of me. You did not deserve that. That wasn't okay. And then you can repair and make amends. And that will further help you feel calmer and better.
Gosh. I mean, you're just offering these, it's like gems. I am so grateful for this. Okay, so talk to me about pervasive low self-worth. Because that feels like tendrils to me that just sort of, they stick on you, and it's something that you can't move away from, you can't get away from no matter how hard you try. Pervasive, that quiet, slinky. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think when I was sharing that in my TEDx talk, I was thinking about sort of seeing client after client after client who were high achieving, very smart, and struggling with low self-worth. Right. And on the outside, it's like, you have everything, right? Like, what's going on? Right. But on the inside, people feeling shame, people feeling not good enough, people feeling self-doubt, and just seeing how common it is for people to struggle with this. And I also think when you talk about sort of tentacles, right, that stick, there's not a huge recognition of how it manifests, right? So I'd say people are starting to talk about self-worth, but it's sort of this sneaky thing that's like, oh, well, I have anxiety, or, oh, I'm self-critical, or, oh, I feel depressed. And then you dig underneath and you're like, oh, you don't think you're worthy, which is why you're worried about everything. Right? Or you don't think you're worthy, which is why you feel so depressed and like you don't deserve love and care, and you're so harsh with yourself. And so you
don't feel like you can set boundaries with people. And so their behavior becomes your behavior. You take on their stuff, their pain, their language, their voice, and you lose who you are. That happens a lot in early adolescence and in the teenage world. But it also happens as, you want to have a successful career. And so you model yourself after people. And that's also a piece, would you say, of that pervasiveness where you sell a piece of who you are because you believe you're not worthy, that they have more to offer. And you might, if you kind of buy into their language and the way they are and present themselves, then you'll become what they are.
Yes, you'll get the happiness that you think they have.
Yeah.
I think a big piece of connecting to our unconditional self-worth is building trust with ourselves. Trusting our intuition, trusting that we know what is right for us. These other people, all these outside voices, these people who look like they have the life we want, they don't know what's best for us. And so it's sort of this turning inward and trusting ourselves, trusting that our voice, our ideas are worthy, right, to be acknowledged and honored and followed.
Gosh. And that almost can't be taught, right? Because you can say all you want. It's kind of that surrender to life. When something doesn't go as planned, failure, people, it's so interesting. We convince ourselves that these words are like failure. It's just this terribly, it's very negative. But I actually see it as, it's a positive. I failed a lot, and that's why I'm here, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But when you see yourself as when life doesn't go as planned, when you have a career change, when like, not to date us, but COVID, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And the business that many people just started because it was, they said, oh my goodness, this is my life's purpose. I'm showing up. And then all the restrictions and life happens in this pandemic that is totally out of our control.
Right.
And it wrecks it. Now there's this failure. There's this sense of, that didn't go as planned. How am I going to survive? And that feeling of lowness, even just in a community. that low vibration, that low energy, that low ebb. How do we wake up?
Yeah. Well, I think, that touches on the fact that many of us have an idea in our head that if we did everything right, we'd never experience challenges or failures.
Yes.
And so when we experience a challenge or failure, we think there must be something wrong with me. I must not have done that right. And so part of it is, it's part of life. The most successful people in the world have failed. Oprah has said she's had failures, right? Everybody has had failures. And the challenge is exactly not to take that as a label or a permanent sort of conclusion about our lives, but to say, okay, this is where I'm at. What can I learn from it? How can I move on from it? And I think that's part of what we can teach. It's hard to teach listening to your intuition, but we can teach listening and letting go of the other noise, right? So how do you get quiet enough to feel what is right for you, right? And to honor that still small voice inside of you that's directing you. How do you sort of figure out who are the teachers that you want to listen to, and who are the ones that lead you in a way that doesn't feel right or doesn't feel aligned? And when you can trust yourself, then a failure doesn't feel final, because well, I have the strategies, I have the skills, I have the resourcefulness. I can turn to other people. I've overcome things in the past, and I can do that again now.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then that leads me to, what is low self-esteem asking of us? Because it is well, I don't know if you would say this, and you please, correct me, but it's like, it's not a symptom, it's not an emotion, low self-esteem, but it's a result almost. And so, in my opinion, and so when the result is continuing, when something keeps happening, like you said, pervasively, always, then we got to look at, like, what's the message here? Where am I needing to heal?
Yep.
Where does the light of truth need to come in and heal that wound? And then where do I need to be accountable in order to move up through that pain? So how do we learn about self-worth in terms of what it's asking of us?
That's a good question. I think it asks us to pause and to get curious about our lives, about how we're relating to ourselves, about how we're relating to other people, and to really intentionally build a loving relationship with ourselves. Right? We spend a lot of time and attention on our romantic partnerships.
Yeah.
We care for them. If we're doing it well, we care for them. We cultivate them. We forgive. We're honest when it's hard to be honest. We're vulnerable. And I think the core of unconditional self-worth and what it asks of us is to build and cultivate that type of loving relationship with ourselves, where there's honesty, where there's vulnerability, where there's love and compassion, where there's encouragement, where there's gentle nudges to grow, and that we're sort of taking a step back from the noise, from the achievement, from the doing, to think about how we are or how we be with ourselves.
I love that we can have this conversation because you're inspiring us. Connect to your body. Connect to your soul. Just breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah.
And that is really the genesis of opening a space that can then lead you to exploration for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, in your, you have this ebook that I like. Thank you for making that.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's great. It's great. I really liked it. You talked about the 4 practices.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, forgive yourself.
Yep.
That's really important. That's the first thing you'd say.
Yes. Yeah. To me, forgiving yourself helps to sort of clear out the past, as we talked about, right? If you're sort of having trouble in relating to yourself, connecting to the fact that you are worthy unconditionally, finding the things that you're holding against yourself and releasing those and forgiving yourself for those helps to sort of clear things and start again in rebuilding a healthy relationship with yourself.
Well, and then you can accept yourself in the present moment.
Yes.
So it's not accepting yourself once you've cleared all the things you need to forgive.
Right.
Right in that moment, for that one thing, you clear it, you forgive, and you accept it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And then there's the being there for yourself, which is really self-compassion, right? Being kind to yourself when things are hard. It's a lot of what we've talked about today.
Yeah.
There's the accepting yourself, as you said. And the 4th practice is connecting to supportive people, which we also talked about, that having people that remind you that you're worthy, especially if you're having trouble accessing that truth yourself.
As we wrap up, I just want to end on this. When you are there for yourself, can you speak to this? Being there for yourself when life gets rough, sometimes we abandon ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think I pointed to it earlier when I said, well, we might not pick ourselves, and we might hold out for a year and then kind of get ourselves back together again. But many of us do abandon ourselves when times are challenging, and that opens us up for lots of exposure to all of the things that we just discussed. How does somebody during challenging times just retether themselves and reconnect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it can look like asking, what do I need right now?
Oh.
Right? It could look like, okay, I need rest or I need to eat. So often when we're struggling and we're upset, we don't sleep, we don't eat, we don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
It could look like being kind and encouraging and saying, okay, I'm having a hard time right now. It could even mean naming that we're having a hard time right now. And that's where we are, right? It's all of those things that we hopefully offer to our friends when they're having a hard time, and we want them to offer to us. It's bearing witness, it's encouraging, it's asking what we need and then giving that to ourselves. I so often tell clients, okay, you're having a hard time, lower your expectations for productivity, for all of these things, right? Allow yourself the space to rest. You're going to need more time to rest and to sleep, and you allow yourself to be nourished, eat food, right? So literally being a friend, being a caregiver to ourselves when we're having a hard time.
Wow. To wrap up, how do you want to impart? Can you inspire someone today?
So I think I want people to know that this is a process and a journey. And if it feels like, oh my gosh, I'll never get there, see if you can take small steps every day. Practice meditation, say something kind to yourself, find ways, even if they're small, to forgive yourself. But these practices will remind you in small ways that you are worthy. So don't think that you need to climb the whole mountain in one day, one foot in front of the other, and you will be able to connect to this truth. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm a fan of yours, and I love your work. And I just want to remind our guests that you have an ebook on your website. And it's the free ebook. Your website is DrAdiaGooden.com. Dr. Adia Gooden.com.
Yes, That's correct. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy. And yes, I'd love people to get the free ebook on 4 practices to overcome low self-worth, and connect to me on social media, Dr. Adia Gooden. But thank you again for having me.
I hope to have you on for further discussion. It's just a delight, and I appreciate your delivery. This is just lots of rich wisdom here that is from your experience, which I think really is the key. You know, we can talk all we want, but it's until we've really experienced it ourselves that authenticity leads us, and it's what people pick up on. And I just want to say thank you for being authentic. Thank you for being who you were made to be. It is just beautiful, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Have a great day.